Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So today's video, actually, I brought up the idea of discussing this topic a couple of weeks ago when I did a video featuring the same actress that I'm talking about today. So that video, I think I put it up about almost 2 weeks ago. It was called Brazil Wasn't Ready for Black Women That Know Their Value. This was a comment that the popular actress Sheron Menezzes made on a popular podcast. So that's a video because it fits perfectly into the narrative of what a lot of Black Brazilian women are talking about these days. Like, the point is, as long as Black Brazilians stay in their quote unquote place, society, still has a problem with them because Brazil is a very anti-Black country. But if they keep themselves in poor regions, if they keep themselves in, you know, less prestigious jobs, if they stay out of areas that, white Brazilians feel like it's supposed to be exclusively theirs, then they just kind of deal with them. But the problem is that in the last decade and a half, you've seen with affirmative action policies and people having access to college degrees, Black Brazilians are moving up. They are finding this social ascension that never really existed on the mass level. So they're having to deal with Black Brazilians, on their level, you could say. So that's a video. That's something that Sheron Menezzes talked about. This was an interview she did on a podcast back in December of last year. So there was some other things that she said in that video that I wanted to focus on. I said in that video that I would come back to that. And today, this is the other part of that interview that I wanted to talk about. She made some headlines in that same interview when she asked a question of how am I going to raise a white boy being a Black mother? And knowing her history, knowing, I've seen Sheron Menezzes, she's been, a global television actress, for about 2 decades now. I remember when I first saw her, it had to been around 2003, 2004, and this is a new up and rising Black actress on Brazil's top television network, again, Rede Global or Global Television. So I've been familiar with Sheron Menezzes for a while, but this intrigued me about how she asked this question, and some people took issue with her bringing this up, particularly in a country like Brazil, where Brazilians are accustomed to seeing Black and brown skin disappear after generations due to miscegenation. I've done numerous videos over the years on the blog and on this video channel, just talking about how Brazilians prefer to mix until their offspring, their grandchildren or their great grandchildren come out whiter looking. There's a video that I did, a 2-part series that was talking about how Brazil wants to eliminate Blacks through the whitening process, the process where brown and blacker skin and lighter skinned people of African descent continuously mix. They create lighter skinned mixed kids. Those mixed kids go on to mix with white people and on until 2 or 3 or 4 generations later, the entire family is represented by people who look white. So this is nothing new here. This has been going on for a long time. Okay. So I'm going to refer to other videos that I've put up that give more context into today's article or video. So let's get into what Sheron Menezzes was talking about in this interview. Okay, so this is a popular actress, Sheron Menezzes, with her son Benji. Okay, so this is what I just talked about: Brazil's desire for a white population. Black identity has always been an issue in Brazil. For decades, some would say centuries, there's been this issue of Black Brazilians avoiding having a Black identity. They would identify themselves with all types of terminology that would, and for the purposes of escaping being labeled as Black. Okay. So my issue with that is, how is it, in the last decade and a half, 2 decades, you could say there's been this rise of Black identity politics. But it always perplexes me how now Black Brazilians want to move full steam ahead into Black identity and Black power and Black this and Black that, Black money, Black identity, Black family, Black love, and all of this. But you still see, even with this rise of Black identity politics, that people still continue to mix. It's like, you can't have both. If you're going the route of race doesn't matter, let's just mix. We all mix here, no problem. Then that's the side of the coin that you're on. But if you're going to push for something that says black people need to have their own, there needs to be black power, we need to have black families, black neighborhoods, black money, and this type of thing, you can't really continuously mix with non-black people and think you're going to get to somewhere where you can call it black power. That's just like a contradiction. How does that happen? Because every couple of generations, as the generations go on with each family, it gets whiter and whiter. So make that make sense. This always refers to the famous Hedison Jicam painting. Let me see which one of my videos am I talking about here. So yeah, that's the video I was just talking about. This painting right here that shows, what they call Ham's redemption, the famous Bible story, or, it actually comes out of other sources to tell you the truth. But the idea was the redemption of Ham, who was said to have been cursed with black skin. So what's the redemption is to whiten the family line. So that's what this famous painting is all about. I've referred to it in numerous videos, just the whitening process where the black family becomes white after 2 or 3 generations after successive mixing with white families or white partners. So which brings me to Sheron Menezzes has a son that looks like this. So what does her husband look like? Okay. Well, it's not a surprise to me because I've known about Sheron Menezzes for some years. This is her husband. I think his name is Saul, if I'm not mistaken. When I look at this guy, he doesn't necessarily look white per se. He looks more like Middle Eastern. I don't really know what his ancestral background is, but I would say he has some type of Middle Eastern background. Not sure. But the point is, the child that they created together looks like this. So again, Sheron Menezzes talks about the challenges of being a mother of a white child. Internet users question the actress's comments. Let's get straight into this story. So on Wednesday, December 13th, an excerpt from actress Sheron Menezzes' participation in the podcast Came Podgy Podgy, hosted by actresses Giovanna Eubank and Fernanda Paes Lemos, about being the mother of a white child began to resonate. The artist vented about the personal challenges she still faces to understand how to raise her son Benji. So this is just a promo for the podcast that appeared in December 2023. A lot of interesting things she had to say. In the chat, Sheron Menezzes explains how she reacted when she realized her son was white. I thought I was going to be the mother of a black child, but he was born white. But there, the birth, my mind started going, hang on, how are we going to deal with this? And then I had to do the opposite. How am I going to raise a white boy being a black mother? How is he going to understand where he came from? How does he have to act outside the home being white? However, the actress says that she is still going through the process of understanding how to raise little Benji. He needs to understand who his mother is, what his family is like, and put himself in that place, even though he doesn't have my skin color. It's a process I go through every day because it's not very easy, said Sheron Menezzes. Now, this, a lot of people, commented on this particular segment of the interview. This comes from another YouTube page, and they're asking the question, which she just raised, like, how am I going to raise a white boy? On the web, however, the artist's comments weren't well received. Some internet users questioned whether it was necessary to study to raise a child. One person said, I'm black and I had white children and raised them normally. Does a mother need to study anything to be able to raise her child, no matter what color it is? Another follower also commented, I'm black, I have a white daughter. There was never any kind of conversation about it. It was normal, but everything is this militancy. It's tiring, she says. However, other mothers came out in defense of Sheron Menezzes. One commenter said, I understand what she meant. In this case, she's talking about teaching her son when one day bullying happens about his mother's skin color, even if he's white, how he'll deal with it, wrote one fan. Now, just to let you know, this is from a particular, the comments that I read here came from the website where this article comes from. The Correio Brasiliense website did a story about this, and those were where those comments come from. Obviously, I translated everything from Portuguese here. So a couple of things I want to touch on here before I get to, some of the other videos that I think, fit in with the conversation here. One thing that a lot of Black Brazilians have complained about over the years as they have children that look white or at least Brazilian white, number one, they can be sometimes people accuse them of kidnapping a white child. As in this is a story I posted from 2017. Black couple accused of kidnapping for simply being with a white child. Boy was the grandson of the couple's landlord. In this story from 2017, also, Black woman denounces attempt to kidnap her daughter. Woman needed to prove she was her child's mother because the little girl looks white. We also have Black people, Black women particularly, who complain about being mistaken for their white child's nanny or babysitter. It always amazes me when people react that way. As long as miscegenation has been going on in Brazil and Black families becoming white in 2 to 3 generations, sometime in the first generation, they produce white kids. Why is there still surprise about this when, I did a story a couple of weeks ago that said the mixed race population in Brazil, even though I would argue that mixed race in Brazil has been the majority for years, for decades, maybe centuries, they're officially saying mixed race, what they call pardos, brown people, are the majority in Brazil. But as I said, even the quote unquote white people, quote unquote Black people in Brazil, even those people are mixed. Then you have those people who are straight down the line, just mixed. So I don't understand the confusion when people see a white looking baby with a Black mother or father because it's so normal in Brazil. In this story right here, a Black man says, I'm Black, my daughter is white, and I'm scared to go alone with her to the mall. Now, what is he talking about here? He says, I'm afraid of going alone to the shopping mall with my daughter, for example, because let me see, every child that goes out alone with the father in some moment will start to scream, calling for mommy. And I keep thinking, I keep imagining me being Black in a shopping mall with a white child screaming, mommy. And then it's going to be a thing of where are your documents, show your documents, because we know Black men in Brazil are always suspect of something. Police brutality is just off the chain in Brazil. Black men get murdered just simply, okay, he's a suspect. They shoot first and ask questions later. I've done a number of videos and articles on that. So, some people might look at that and sound like, he's going over the top, but is he really? This isn't something that's far-fetched. What is that Black guy doing with that white child? So I understand what he's talking about because this is something that, Black Brazilians have talked about for a number of years. It's not something that's just in my head. So the other videos that I wanted to talk about that speak to this, a couple of months ago, I put up another video about another Black Brazilian actress named Juliana Alves. And she was complaining that her daughter doesn't see herself as Black. And it was the same scenario. Well, you married a white or off-white guy. What type of child did you think you were going to have? I'm just like, I don't know where that thinking comes from. Then you have this question. This white woman had a child that people perceive to be non-white because she is clearly blonde. And she's saying, stop criticizing my baby. He's not white like me. People even accused her, oh, well, that must be the neighbor's baby. Right? It was kind of a funny story, but it just is, it speaks on how Brazilians think about what a child looks like when it's born. It's expected to be a white baby. This is what Brazilians have been indoctrinated to believe in for centuries now. So this is it's the same art. This is a 2-part article eliminating Blacks through the whitening process. So then I would say for both of these actresses, I just spoke about Juliana Alves and I'm talking about Sheron Menezzes today. I don't understand the disconnect. You have a child with a person who looks white or something close to white, and your child comes out looking whiter than you. Did nothing click in the mind that says, well, if you have relations with a person who is white or something close to white, that child probably will come out either closer to him or somewhere in the middle? I'm just like, what's hard to understand about this? If you really wanted a Black child to say you have a Black child, or you don't want anybody, mistaking you for the maid or, the babysitter, or you want your child to identify as Black, then you would have a Black child with another Black person. A couple of weeks ago, I did an article by an entrepreneur named Ana Paula Shongani. And she said, I chose to have a dark-skinned girl because she's on the darker brown side, and she chose a man who's on the darker brown side, which gave her daughter more chances of coming out looking like her, coming out with dark brown skin. If you have relations with a person who is of another race, then what would be surprising about that child coming out either looking completely mixed or looking more like the partner who you had the child with. I don't understand what the disconnect is there. We've been seeing this in, Brazil has been on the path of erasing its black population for centuries now. But yet, Sheron Menezzes is like shocked. Like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to raise a white son? Well, why the surprise? And how come if you wanted a black son, you didn't think about that when, you decide to get with the person who looks like your husband? I mean, no knock against the couple, no knock against her husband, no hate against her husband. What I'm saying is, once you decide to have a relationship with a person who's white or close to white, then you have to assume the possibility that the child that you guys produce could come out looking much more like him and his family rather than yours. Another thing that people need to think about, and I'm talking about whether it's the Brazilian situation or the American situation, black people in both of those countries are mixed. Okay. We look and we say, I'm not somebody who's going to get into, oh, you're 20% European, you're 17% Indian and 63% black. I'm not going to get into that because from what I've seen, the studies say that the science isn't there to come up with exact numbers of somebody's ancestry that way. But what I can say is that most African Americans, just like Afro Brazilians, have some degree of racial mixture. So when people say a baby is born 50-50, and I'm speaking specifically of the United States right now, really it's not. Because if Black Americans already have a history of interracial unions or just mixed blood in their past, the African American is already less than 100% Black. So typically, if that African American has a baby with a white person, it's actually going to be genetically probably more white than Black. When we speak about mixed people being Black, we're not talking about genetically, we're talking about how they are looked at socially. So that's something people really need to think about. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to. Okay, so I talked about the idea of Brazilians wanting to whiten the Black and brown population, being taught from their grandparents, their great grandparents, and their parents, look, it's no use getting with another Black person. That's not going to work in this society. You need to marry somebody white. So, like in this story right here, okay, causes and consequences of miscegenation, racial mixture as a weapon of domination and extinction of the oppressed group. So, in this particular article right here, this lady right here, she married this guy. Now, this guy, mind you, he doesn't even look white to me. He looks like this is professor friend of mine who I don't know if he's still there, but I know he was a professor at Wayne State University. Reminds me much of him. So this guy is not white either. But think about what the lady said here. This woman here is Daniela. She says when she discovered she was pregnant, she asked God for a girl that was healthy. But one thing mattered above all, the baby has to be white, she said. So this is something that a lot of Black Brazilians, they've just been taught to prefer. This is something you need to do for the future of your family and your child, is to give them, just like the gift of white skin and European features. Okay. So that's why I wanted to talk about this video today about Sheron Menezzes, because I'm just like, if you wanted a child that looked like you, if you wanted a child that was going to be Black, that identified as Black and all of that, the easiest route to do that would to be get with a person who's at least your complexion or darker. You can't have relations with somebody who's considered white, close to white or whatever, and think, automatically believe you're going to have a Black child. Anyway, wanted to know what you guys thought about today's video. Definitely drop a comment in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you guys got to say about this particular piece. Like this video, share this video, definitely subscribe to the channel, click on the notification bell. If you feel it's worthy, definitely consider dropping a few dollars in the Cash App or dropping a super thanks. And with that said, I'm going to end the video here and request that you all come back and check out the next video that I post.